Hey guys, how are you? It's Mrs. Mags. I wanted to do a little interesting screencast with you today, since we've had a lot of news going on current events wise. So I'm sure that there's a lot of questions going on in your mind over what if or what would happen. So what I wanted to do is just take a little time. We obviously know we're in the middle of an election cycle. We're actually technically in the middle of an election. Over 3 million people have already voted. Here are two candidates, Joe Biden, you've got on the left, he's Democrat, and then you've got Donald Trump on the right, he is your Republican. Over the weekend, Donald Trump was diagnosed with coronavirus. He became ill and they moved him to Walter Reed Medical Center, which is a military hospital, about a 30-minute helicopter ride from the White House. It has a presidential suite, and it's a location that a lot of presidents go to for assistance and help. He seems to be doing better, so that is obviously a good thing for the country. Here he is getting off the helicopter, getting into Walter Reed, and here is the helicopter choppering him out. Now, in the event that Donald Trump continues to get better, this would not be an issue. But on the flip side, in the event that Donald Trump's health takes a turn and he gets ill, there's always the question over what would happen when we have to transfer, or if we have to transfer power. So that's where the 25th Amendment comes into play. In the Constitution, we have an article in Section 2. I take that back. In Article 2, Section 1, Clause 6 of the Constitution, which specifically lays out how we transfer power through line of succession, which we'll do in a minute, but it never actually determined what would happen in the inability to serve. So that is where you've got your, in case of a real emergency, break the glass, 25th Amendment, which is what we're going to talk about. So first, let's look at what the line of succession would look like in the United States. So in Article 2, Section 1, Clause 6, here's your line of succession: Vice President, Speaker of the House, President pro tempore, Secretary of State. Here's another diagram. And then here is who those people would be. If Donald Trump, for some reason, gets ill and can't carry out his duty, it would go to the Vice President, Mike Pence, and then it would pass to Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, if need be, the President pro tempore or the Secretary of State, which are Chuck Grassley and Mike Pompeo. But what I really want to focus on with you guys is what would happen in the event of having to use the 25th Amendment. So here we go back to historically when we've had some chaos. So we have the assassination of JFK. After JFK was assassinated, you see Lyndon Johnson being sworn in on Air Force One with Jackie Kennedy next to him. After that, in 1965, the 25th Amendment was passed, and then it was ultimately ratified in 1967 in order to fill that gap. So the 25th Amendment, Section 3, which is the part that they would use for a presidential incapacity or a medical issue, has been used a couple of times. For example, Ronald Reagan in 1985, he had cancer surgery. He transferred power temporarily to George Bush, and also George H.W. Bush had to have a couple of colonoscopies, one in 2002 and another in 2007, and then he temporarily transferred power to Dick Cheney, his vice president. However, Section 4 of the 25th Amendment has actually never been used, and then that's what would happen in the event that the U.S. cabinet or the vice president of the United States believes for some reason that the president of the United States is incapable of doing their job. In that scenario, what we would ultimately have to do, we'll look at the electoral map in a minute. In that case, what we would ultimately have to do is 2/3 of both houses of Congress would have to approve power being taken from the president. The president can challenge Section 4 if he would like to, but if a majority of the Congress says that the president cannot carry out their duties, and then lawmakers within 21 days decide by a 2/3 vote that is the case, then power would be temporarily taken away from the U.S. president, and it would be transferred back when he was healthy again. The 25th Amendment is not something that